Hey guys, welcome to the Wednesday night edition of I'm Still Playing. I hope you guys had a great week so far. I'm going to do a couple of things this week. First of all, I want to begin by thanking you guys for coming by and for continuing to check out. The last video had quite a few views, so I'm very happy about that, and a few more subscribers. And in fact, I want to start off by talking a little bit about Threads. Threads is another social media platform. Some of you may or may not be familiar with it. It's kind of a Twitter alternative. I quit Twitter altogether back at the beginning of this year, and I haven't looked back. I've been really happy to not be on Twitter. And Threads is a lot like Twitter used to be, except without the toxicity and the hate. I spent a lot of my time on Threads, or at least I initially spent a lot of time on Threads, talking about my book, about trying to get a book traditionally published. It's very hard to do, as you might imagine. But I haven't been chatting about the book quite so much lately. I've kind of shelved the work on the book for the time being, while I decide if I'm going to continue querying it or if I'm going to try to publish it independently, or maybe even write a new book and publish that independently. In the meantime, I invite you to check out Threads. Come by, hang out. I do still talk quite a bit about games and anime and game development and nerd culture in general. Pretty much the same kind of things that I'm going to cover here on the vlog. You can follow me at dusty.monk, so come check it out. So tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to relay a game development story, a story from my past, or at least talk about a game dev back from my past. It was 2001, and we were in the last weeks of shipping Age of Mythology. So it's midnight, Friday night. We're the only ones left here in the building. Everyone else is pretty much gone. I've been here since 9 o'clock this morning. We've been working these kind of hours since April, and we have at least another 6 or 7 weeks to go of it. It's crazy. I mean, we have a lot of crazy stuff to do, but I think, we'll be able to pull it all together and get the game out the door in the end. So, yeah, that's me. 21 years ago, out in the garage. If you're wondering why I was out in the garage, it was because I was on a smoke break. Back in 2001, I was actually smoking quite a bit. And so I would take frequent smoke breaks down there, and they wanted to film me down in the garage because it was grungier and looked more awesome. So in 2001, it was really a different time in the game development industry. Crunch was pretty common, and it was certainly common at Ensemble Studios. We crunched almost the last 8 months of development for Age of Mythology. At that time, Ensemble Studios practiced what would be considered a humane crunch, believe it or not, compared to some of the other game development companies. For instance, we would only crunch 12 hours a day, although sometimes we did crunch 14 or 16 hours, but by policy, it was typically 12-hour day crunches. It would only be 4 days a week instead of 7. Fridays were supposed to be a normal work day, although again, we did crunch some Saturdays as well. But for the most part, it was tried to be limited to 4 days a week with normal days on Fridays. They were always planned, as in we would let your spouses and significant others know when you were going to crunch. But quite often that planned crunch would be 2 weeks or 3 weeks or even 4 weeks at a time of 4 days a week, working 12 to 14 hours a day. And Ensemble Studios paid for all of the meals. We'd provide you with lunch and dinner every day, and we had a fully stocked kitchen. So, in fact, we used to joke about the freshman 15 at Ensemble Studios, and that was the 15 pounds you put on crunching while working at Ensemble Studios. So why am I talking about crunch at Age of Mythology and shipping Age of Mythology? Well, at that time, Blizzard Entertainment and Ensemble Studios were actually pretty friendly rivals. We had Age of Empires and Age of Mythology, and they had a franchise called Warcraft. And these two games, or these two franchises, I should say, were the dominant games in the real-time strategy genre. Age of Empires was really a pretty big game, competed against Warcraft 2, and then Warcraft 3 competed against Age of Mythology. And so as such, there were a number of Ensemble employees that were former Blizzard employees, and there were a number of people over at Blizzard that were former Ensemble employees. So we knew a lot of each other from the two companies. And in fact, oftentimes we would get together and hang out when we were at conventions like E3 and things like that. So that is how I found myself in 2001, 2002 timeframe in one of the earliest Friends and Family alphas for a game that Blizzard was working on at the time called World of Warcraft. So how does all that relate back to Age of Mythology? Well, when we shipped Age of Mythology, the company gave almost all of us a month off, which is just paid month, like to make up for all of the crunch time that we'd spent. We were allowed to just take the month off. And that was when I created my first World of Warcraft character in the Friends and Family Alpha. And she was a Fury warrior named Kate. And a few years later, as we moved out of Friends and Family time and we moved into retail and World of Warcraft launched in 2004, I was given a month off after that for shipping Age of Empires 3. And at that time, I leveled my first character all the way to level 60 in World of Warcraft. And back then, that was a pretty major thing to get a character to level 60. The journey was the game. There was an end game there. We did molten core raids and things like that. But honestly, getting to level 60 was the game. So Kate has gone on to live all these years. She has been moved from server to server. But she was my first original character. She's older than some of you watching, probably. And I think that is who I'm going to main in The War Within. See? It all comes back. Yeah. So I did, in fact, level a paladin to level 70. And I geared her up. And I tested her in the DPS charts. And I was actually really impressed with how close Paladin and Marksman Hunter and Fury Warrior were to each other within the DPS charts. Like literally tenths of a point apart. And that's a great thing because one, that means the team is actually on the ball with balancing and they're doing a really pretty good job of getting these classes close to one another. And two, it means I can feel comfortable playing at least any one of those three classes and know that I'm going to have a class that'll be competent in the meta. And a lot of people say, oh, play what you like. It doesn't matter who you pick. But honestly, for a lot of us, playing what we like, how well that character performs in the meta is a part of how much fun we feel like we can have with that character. And that is certainly the case for me. The character I play doesn't have to be top of the DPS charts, but I want to know that it's performing well and that it has a chance. And that if I learn to play the character, I have a chance of doing fairly well in those details meters. So yeah, so that's it for this week. Yeah, a little bit of a game development story, and it all boils down to who I'm going to pick this for maining, at least to begin with, in The War Within. I hope you guys have enjoyed the story. Please let me know if you like these kinds of flashes from my past, if you find them interesting. I've been doing this for a really long time, so I do definitely have some stories to tell from the trenches, as it were. In the meantime, for next week, I think we're going to be looking at Diablo 4. Season 5 just opened up. I did create a character there, and a seasonal character. And so, yeah, I think some of you, well, many of you may have come for the World of Warcraft stuff. I suspect many of you will also be playing Season 5, Diablo 4. So let's go check it out. In the meantime, have a great week, and thanks again for coming by.